Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I know there are gonna be a couple more companies filing on as time goes on, but just wanna say good afternoon and welcome to our first Palmer Corporate Roundtable Series. Thank you for joining us today on what is most likely your lunch hour. I am Al Hatch, and for those of you who don't know me, I am the Associate Director of the Employer Relations team here in the Russell Palmer Career Center. And the goal of these calls is really just to provide an update to you along with share and learn best practices from each other during these very unusual times. So I'm going to turn it over to Marla quick before we begin.
Thanks, Al. For those of you I haven't met before, my name is Marla McGraw. I'm the director of the Russell Palmer Career Management Center. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the Russell Palmer team and the Broad College of Business, we're just very grateful to have your support and your commitment. We look forward to working with you this year, even under the
I felt like you were passing me, so I'm like looking for you all crazy. And then I looked.
And Al, if you want to take it away.
Yes, thank you. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. Just to remind everybody, please keep your mic muted on the call unless you are speaking. And when you're sharing anything, please say the company name you are with. And we want to be able to answer everyone's questions. So we will have time for Q&A at the end, but if you have questions at any point, feel free to put that in the chat and we will be monitoring it throughout the call. I'm also recording this session today, so I am able to send the Zoom call out along with these slides from today to anyone you want to share it with at your office who may have not been able to make the call. And we have some really good information, so let's go ahead and get started. So quick agenda items that I'm just going to run through. We're going to do an introduction of the Palmer team who are on the call with us today, along with some of our peer coaches. We're going to do an overview of fall recruiting. Bronte will run down through the fall events for the 2020 season with the Palmer Center. She'll also go over the Easy Virtual Career Fairs platform that we're using. And then we'll talk a little bit with the coaching team to hear some updates and student touch points. And then we'll get a chance to talk with a couple of our peer coaches. And then of course, Q&A time at the end. So I know Marla and I already introduced ourselves, but this is kind of an overview of our team here at the Palmer Center. So Tony, if you want to go ahead and go next and introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Sure, Tony Mera. I manage our coaching, advising, and education team.
And then Kristen, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Hintz. I'm the lead for undergraduate coaching and advising, and I will be talking with you a little bit later, but I have the pleasure of working with the peer coach team, the undergrad peer coach team.
And Penny, if you want to go next.
Hi, I'm Penny Vandekar, and a lot of you already know me. I am a recruiting manager, and I'm on the employer relations.
And Bronte is also on this call with us. Go ahead, Bronte.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bronte Zalkowski. I'm our events and communications manager here in the Palmer Center. So if you are attending any events, undergrad or MBA, you have most likely been in contact with me.
And then I am going to turn it over to Tony to chat a little bit about our peer coaches.
Sure, thanks, Al. So beyond the folks that you saw on the org chart, a vital part of our organization is coaches. So we have upwards of 6,000 students that we support from early stage all the way through seniors. Frankly, we could not support all those students without our peer coaches. They do a wonderful job. So our peer coaches they're all seniors, so they've been through the job search process before. They come from a variety of different majors that you can see there, and also. They're high achievers and just a great team. In fact, you're going to meet 3 of them in just a few minutes. So their role is they do a lot of our basic advising, which is really a lot of what we do with the undergrads. So they do a lot of resume reviews, a lot of cover letter reviews, students that have basic questions. Career fairs coming up. What do I do? I've never gone to a career fair before. They do a lot of those sorts of our advising appointments, as well as they have the flexibility to do open office hours and sometimes even off hours, so weekends later at night. So again, great part of our team. And in addition to advising, they also really serve as ambassadors. So they're kind of our eyes and ears into the student population. We represent our office, get the word out about the Palmer Center, and also bring feedback back from students into our office. So again, can't say enough about them. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So those are undergrads. We have a similar program on the MBA side. So they support our MBA students. These are second-year MBAs. Again, variety of different majors. I'd say a primary difference between undergrad and grad is the MBAs, they're assigned a specific group, usually up to 8 or 9 incoming students, and they work really deeply with just that small group. They don't normally take regular advising appointments, so they kind of go real deep, and most of their work is done early in the year when the bulk of the MBA recruiting activity occurs. So again, great group. We couldn't do it without them. Then finally, their other function is to support our team teaches a class, a required career management class for incoming MBAs. They're a critical part of supporting that class. And that was it on peer coaches.
Thanks, Tony. I'm going to now kind of dive into a quick overview of what fall looks like this year for our team. So as you likely know, by this point, all classes and recruiting are completely virtual. So what does this mean for our office? The Palmer team will continue working remotely as we have been since March, as I know many of you have also been. So while you may not be able to come to campus this semester, we're still planning virtual events and networking opportunities, virtual interviews, virtual career fairs, virtual coffee chats. Basically anything that you have done on campus, we can find a way to replicate virtually. And if you need help conducting these at any other virtual recruiting initiatives, just reach out to your recruiting manager, and we're more than willing to help walk through those processes that you're putting together for your fall recruiting strategy. Our coaching team has also been doing a lot of virtual student touch points throughout the summer, and I will leave that for them to go over in the next few slides. Another point I wanted to bring up about fall is to discuss the virtual learning for MSU students this fall. There, of course, will be some classes that students can log in at any time and do the coursework, but there are also going to be many classes that take place online at a set time each day that is live. So I wanted to bring this up for a couple of reasons. We're still recommending from our team that information sessions, webinars, single company events still should take place just to align with those class schedules. And again, always feel free to reach out to us at any time. We are still tracking all virtual recruiting initiatives. So we know all companies and what events they're doing, and we're happy to help, solidify a date and time for you. I also wanted to touch on grading. It will be normal for this semester. They will use a 4-point grading scale. It won't be like spring. I just wanted to touch on that. A few Handshake best practices for this semester. Just a reminder to please put all events and interviews into Handshake. Students will be utilizing Handshake more than ever this semester to find opportunities. So interviews can always be entered as room only if you are setting your schedule outside of Handshake and you're not having students sign up in Handshake. And as I mentioned, we're tracking everything to continue to make sure there aren't too many events on one night, or they're not overlapping time periods within the night, so that students can go to all of the opportunities that they wish to go to virtually. And the last thing I wanted to mention, as you can see, there's a small picture right there of our virtual recruiting best practices. So we'll plan to send that out to everyone after this call. I think some folks got that with the newsletter, but we'll also be sending that out again. I'll turn it over to Bronte.
Hi everyone, so as you can see on this slide, we have listed all of our virtual events that are taking place through the fall. So these events are all posted in Handshake. If you're interested in finding out more information on any of them, just to quickly run down the list and the platform that the event will be taking place on. Our first event we have is the Finance Career Fair, which is taking place in the Easy Virtual Fair platform, which I will talk about a little bit more on the next slide. Then we have the Sales Leadership Fair taking place on September 17th. That fair is actually using the Handshake system. So that's a new system Handshake created for this time that's going on, and they will be utilizing that. The International Career Fair on September 23rd is in the EVF Easy Virtual Fair system. Careers and Business Fair, our big fair, taking place September 24th. Also in the Easy Virtual Fair system, and the MBA MS Career Fair on September 24th. Something to know about the MBA MS Fair is typically this fair takes place in October. However, this year we have moved it up to take place the same time as the Careers and Business Fair. So if you typically come to that fair in October, just note that that date has been changed. Next, we have a Broad Engineering Corporate Series that we have started. These events will be taking place via Zoom, and they are a virtual experience for students to kind of go and learn a little bit more about companies in specific regions. So there's 6 events taking place starting September 30th, and they end on November 11th. This event is not actually in Handshake for employers to sign up for, but if you are interested, feel free to reach out to Al or myself or your recruiting manager, and we can get you more information and potentially get you signed up if your office location is in one of those areas. Then we have on October 1st, the Information Technology Mix and Mingle. That event is taking place via Zoom. And finally, kind of rounding things up for the career fair season is the Analytics and Marketing Research Career Fair taking place October 9th, and that will be in the Easy Virtual Fair system. One last thing to note is as we get into the fall semesters, that many of these fairs have their registration deadlines coming up here on the next couple of weeks. So while there is really no cap to the amount of companies we can have at each fair, we do need everybody to try and get signed up as soon as possible, as there is some extra creation that needs to be done on the virtual side to get your booth set up and ready for the fairs. If you have any more questions about any of these events, you can shoot me an email and I'd be more than happy to discuss them with you. And again, they are all in Handshake, so you can find more information there as well.
Bronte, I'd like to just chime in that as we were planning these fairs, we recognize the budgetary constraints many of you face, and the fact that these are virtual and not in-person events. And so some of these fairs and these events are free for organizations to join, and some of them are at a greatly reduced price. So just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
So moving on to the Easy Virtual Fair system, if you are registered to attend the Finance Fair, the International Fair, the Careers and Business Fair, the MBA, you have most likely already received an email from me containing your organization's login and username. This is a little bit of a look at the back end of what the system looks like. So in the bottom picture right underneath the Easy Virtual Fair title of the slide, you will see your booth setup. So once you log in, you'll be able to go in and set up your booth, changing your booth name, adding in documents and job postings and things like that, logos, images, kind of creating your own booth, which is then displayed on the right hand where you see the gentleman with the booth. So when students log in to the Easy Virtual Fair system, they will be able to click on your company's name, and that will take them to your company's booth, which is the most realistic career fair looking booth we could get for the virtual time. So You have an avatar that you get to select, and you get to customize your booth a little bit, adding logos and images to the banners and posters that you see behind our avatar there. Once students come into your booth, you can see in that picture there's some circles underneath with images. Those are going to be where your downloads go, your job postings go. There's more too that you'll have the option to have in your booth. So students will be able to click on those to get more information. You can have external links that direct them to your website, your career site, different things like that. And then finally, that last picture is what the fair will look like on the day of the fair when students and you log in. So students will log in, they'll be able to chat with you. There's a little green arrow at the bottom of the screen. Students can click on that. It'll take them to all the companies who are attending the fair on the day. And they will then be able to search for your company or click on your company logo and visit your booth.
Thanks, Bronte.
Bronte or Al, could you speak for a minute just on some of the training collateral that'll go out for companies?
Yep, so if you have already registered for any of the fairs that are in the EVF system, I have already sent you an email. I just got all cut up this morning. So, and that contains a 11-page frequently asked questions document along with a checklist on how to set up your booth that you can follow. There's also a chat PDF that explains how your chat system works, because with each registration, you have one admin login and then 9 additional chat logins, so you can have 10 representatives on at a time. And then finally, we have also included a YouTube link with a quick 3-minute video kind of explaining how to set up your booth with a demo, so you can watch that as it goes on. And then if you have any other questions, you can always email me about more specific things. I'd be more than happy to hop on a phone call or a Zoom call where we can do some screen sharing to get your booth set up and ready for you to go.
Thanks, Bronte. I am now going to turn it over to Kristen on the coaching team.
So with this slide, I'd like to share with you some of the things that we have been doing and plan to do to help get students prepared for the upcoming fall recruiting season. And one of those has been a series of summer workshops that we did addressing, for example, how students can optimize their internship experience. What are some alternatives or supplements that students can do if their internship was canceled or they weren't able to find one? What is this thing about pre-recorded interviews? How can you best do a pre-recorded interview, networking, branding? And we're continuing those same topics into the fall. So navigating virtual career fairs, how to have conversations with all of you as employers, what's the most effective way to do that, how they can brand themselves better on LinkedIn, and then we do a series of workshops on exploring business careers. And I know that some of you here on this call today helped us out this summer, and we'd love to have those of you who are interested help out again. Students always like to hear an employer perspective. Unfortunately, we know that spending, an hour on Zoom is like spending 3 hours in an in-person meeting. So we have limited time to utilize all your expertise. But what I'll do after I'm done speaking is put the email address to our main office, palmer@broad.msu.edu. And if you're interested in contributing to any of our fall workshops, and you can name the topic, behavioral interviewing, exploring careers, navigating fairs, whatever that might be. We'll get a list out to all of you of when those are, but email that email and we'll follow up to see if we can slot you into one of those areas. As it states at the top of the slide, we've had over 4,500 student appointments last year with graduate students and undergraduate students, and we're continuing those virtually. Students don't hesitate to schedule via phone or Zoom. Zoom is the platform we use to conduct in-person, live appointments with students. We also have a lot of Broad student organizations, of which there's over 40, that ask us to come in and talk about what our office does and how we can help them get prepared in their career development process. We'll do workshops on resumes and that kind of thing. So we really appreciate being asked to do that. We also send out a weekly newsletter called the Broad Career Bulletin to all 6,000 Broad students that addresses resources they can tap into, events coming up, specific to things that help them conduct a more effective job search. And then amongst the coaching team, we're all directly or indirectly involved in teaching formal class Tony mentioned earlier, the MBA career class. And then we also teach a class in the spring to the residential business community students, and a class in the fall for students who are recently admitted that want to learn more about conducting a job search. So that's a little bit about what the undergrad coaching team and the coaching team does to help get students ready. But one of the things we thought you would like to hear about is directly from some of these students. So on the call today, 3 of our 15 peer coaches, and I see Lizzie just made herself visible, and there's Caroline, and then Charles is on here somewhere as well. They're going to briefly introduce themselves and then go back and address their thoughts on some of the questions on the screen. So with that, I told them we go in alphabetical order to say name, major, and where you interned, and then we'll go back and if you have thoughts on the questions here. So take it away. And it says Elizabeth, but she goes by Lizzie, so.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth All, and I'm a senior studying supply chain. This summer, I interned at Edwards Life Sciences in Irvine, California. Some highlights of my virtual internship were learning how to effectively communicate with people I've never met, and then also being able to be immersed in the company culture through Q&A sessions with the leaders, and then volunteering opportunities that were virtual with other interns and new grads. And then some challenges were being able to network with others outside of my team. It was kind of hard to find time to set up specific one-on-one meetings. And then also I worked in manufacturing, so it was kind of hard to grasp the manufacturing process, especially of heart valves, while working remotely. And then my favorite virtual company activity this summer was the virtual brunch that my team held for me on my last day, where they gave me advice for my last year of college and then also for starting my career. And then the top career related concern that I've been hearing from my peers is if companies will be understanding of the lack of professional experience that a lot of people have due to internships being rescinded. And then my thoughts on virtual classes are very hopeful. I think that the live sessions will provide a forum for engaging classes and discussions. And then lastly, the concern that I've heard most for virtual recruiting is if students will be able to make a lasting first impression and a good connection with companies, especially for the career fairs.
Thank you, Lizzie. Okay, Caroline, you want to go next? I think you have to unmute.
So sorry. So my name is Caroline Schlimgen. I'm a senior marketing major, and I interned at Pepsi this summer. So I was supposed to be located in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but obviously I wasn't going to go there. So I ended up doing it from my hometown, Troy, Michigan, and my manager was from Ohio. So some of the highlights of that internship were we were put into pods with cross-functional teams, which was a brand new challenge this summer due to COVID. And it ended up being an absolute highlight for nearly every intern. And we got to work on current business problems and come up with creative and innovative solutions that we ended up presenting to senior leadership at the end of the 6 weeks. So it was an extremely great opportunity for us to work together with people we would never have been able to work with, and also kind of get an idea of a general business operation that Pepsi has running. Some challenges were tech issues. Obviously, everyone has dealt with that due to COVID. I spent the first couple days on Zoom with IT trying to set up my laptop, but after that was resolved, I didn't have very many issues. Another thing that I dealt with was my main role was supposed to be in person, and I would be going to stores and merchandising, and so it relied very heavily on being in person. So the transition to the virtual internship was great, but I feel like I missed out on quite a few of the in-person aspects that I would have had. But then by the end, my manager ended up strapping a camera to one of his salespeople, and we were able to get a firsthand perspective of what that role would look like, which I thought was super awesome, and the other interns also appreciated that as well. The best activity I liked the most was we had these things called Leader Live series, and our CEO actually went on and presented to us about his role and how he got there, and answered questions that us interns submitted to him. So I thought that was extremely cool, and we had other senior leaders present to us as well. And then a top career related concern would be, I think in business, it's meant to be mostly in person. You have a strong handshake, good eye contact. So I think it makes it a lot less personable being virtual, which is something I'm concerned about, especially during recruiting, because ways you can stand out, you may not stand out as well virtually. And then thoughts about the fall. I think at this point, we're pretty adjusted to virtual classes. It's harder to learn in those virtual classes, but with what we have going on, we have to take, we have to do what we can in those classes to make the most of it. And then for virtual recruiting, I think what I've heard from my friends is that we're mostly nervous about companies relying heavily on HireVues. They are super awkward, and a lot of students don't really have that experience with them. So I think if companies do rely more heavily on those, I feel like students will be more uncomfortable and also feel like they're not actually being seen by the companies.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, Charles, you're up. Not last but not least.
I'm gonna do that. You're
Hey everyone, glad to see some familiar faces. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, cool. Hey everyone, my name is Charles Zhao and I'm majoring in supply chain management. This summer I interned at Microsoft within their Azure cloud platform. So 2 high-level highlights from my internship that I thought were the most important were having a well laid out internship project that had a timeline for like deliverables as well as like detailed information for me to understand like the objective and the end goal of the project. This like really helped me onboard easier despite the virtual like onboarding process. And then the second highlight was having like a mentor that I met with almost every single day to ask questions. And scheduling weekly one-on-ones with each person on my team was like super valuable to me. And this allowed me to like get closer to my team and also building up that personal relationships, like despite not having like meeting anybody in person from my team. And then for my top challenge for the virtual internship, it was definitely the virtual learning curve. It's always a challenge to onboard to a new team, and it made it even harder being like virtual. But however, like having some sort of team wiki that my team like made for me for new hires was like super helpful and guided my process a lot smoother for the process. And then another challenge was screen fatigue. I'm sure a lot of you guys have like dealt with this as you guys have done work virtually. And like after spending 8 hours of screen time, like it's always tough to go back on for social events, for like instance, like intern happy hours. It's always tough to turn on your laptop again, especially after dinner time, and talk with the team. So that made it difficult as well. A fun virtual company activity made available during my internship was a virtual hackathon. And this allowed me and a couple other to be entrepreneurs and kind of develop our own product and project. And this was a great relationship builder. And I got to know like one of the interns on the hackathon team very well. And we played video games together quite often, even like after the internship. So I think having some sort of like virtual where you can work on a project with just interns is something that's very valuable in an internship. And then I believe that the top career related concern for me, at least, is the security of the job market. A few of my friends, like Lizzie voiced before, like got their internship rescinded, and that's super disappointing to hear about this year. And I believe that most students are definitely concerned about whether or not there'll be opportunity for full-time employment, like upon graduation. And for the fall, I believe virtual classes will run smoothly like last semester. I think MSU did a great job transitioning into a virtual environment in the spring semester. But of course, the value of in-person interactions is no longer there. And that is one of the most important aspects of college, which is like making connections. And virtual recruiting will certainly be different. A lot easier to it's a lot easier to attend the interviews or like the meetings or like the events, but it will be difficult to really gauge like a company's or someone's personality and kind of understand the company's culture over like a screen. And that's my experience and thoughts. And I think it's time for some questions, I believe, Kristen.
Yeah, Al, I don't know, do you want to transition to the next one? I'm going to give you all a great hand clap there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. It's nice. I know Kristen and you guys have been talking throughout the summer, but it's nice to see you guys on the screen too. So that is our main portion from our end on updates, and I want to open the floor now for Q&A. So feel free to ask anyone from the Palmer team or the peer coaches or each other. So I'm going to open that up right now.
One thing I wanted to mention, Al, is just that I have had some questions from companies about the training that students will go through in how to use the virtual career fair platforms. And we will have training materials provided. And then we also have a mock virtual career fair so that the students will get a chance to utilize the platform before the Careers in Business Career Fair and the MSMBA Career Fair.
So the questions are okay now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So hey everybody, this is Chad Swindell. I work at SC Johnson. So we're planning to participate. Bronte, you mentioned a little bit about kind of how the experience is and stuff like that. But I didn't hear anything about, like, so when the students pull up your virtual page and they see your avatars and stuff like that, can they tell sort of like who's talking to somebody already? Will it show like avatars for all 6 or 10 or however many folks we're going to have in there? And then are there opportunities then for sort of like one-on-one conversations, or can you have like two-on-one conversations if we got somebody who's less experienced at recruiting and stuff like that? Can you describe a little bit how that's going to go?
Yeah, so the platform, when students log into your booth, you only have one avatar, so you won't have one for each person, each recruiter that you have logged in. And from there on your page, you will have a public chat where you can have open messaging, so anybody who comes to your page will be able to see that. So I recommend kind of at the beginning, if you want to put in like a welcome message from your company so students can see that when they come to your booth. And from there, they can then go in and have conversations. And like I said, that would be the public forum. There's also an opportunity to have private chat. So each 10 of your recruiters will be able to have a private chat. Students won't be able to see who else the recruiter's chatting with privately. So that's all private. And then you can chat with as many students as you can keep up with. So theoretically, you could have 10 separate private chats going on at one time if you're able to manage that. So there's not necessarily like a waiting room or anything like that where students will have to wait to have a conversation with you. It'll just be lag time with responding to the messages. From there, there's not really an opportunity to have a two-on-one chat with 2 recruiters and 1 student, but you are able to input into your private chats a Zoom link or a Skype link or some other, whatever platform you'd like to use, where you could get off that platform and then get on a video call with the students themselves. So if you're wanting more of a personal connection, or if you would like to invite another recruiter to that Zoom call as well, you could have 2 recruiters and 1 student kind of in a Zoom call doing a video chat like that. Did that
Okay,
answer
thanks.
the question?
Yeah, I think so. So the chats that you're talking about, are those strictly just text messages, or is that video messaging?
Yeah, so in the system itself, it'll strictly be very similar to a text message or like a chat in Microsoft
Okay,
Teams.
like IMs or whatever. Okay.
Yep, exactly. And then the video system would have to be an outside link. So the system itself, the Easy Virtual Fair system, does not have a video system embedded in it, but you have the opportunity to put, when you're creating your chat profile, to put your Zoom link or Google Meet link or whatever you want. You can easily, there'll be a little camera button on the private chats where you can just click that and it'll insert the link if you're wanting to chat with us.
Is there a recommended system that students typically use that we should make sure we're focusing on? I mean, so our company usually uses Skype versus Zoom. Would either one work for students? I want to make sure we're trying to make it easy for them too, right?
Yeah, both should work. MSU students should have access to Zoom. All MSU students have Zoom and WebEx access, but you can also, any system is fine. They should be.
Yeah.
All right.
Chad, as a student, I would probably say most students would prefer Zoom. I feel like Skype and WebEx might make students confused, but we do use Zoom every single day, so I would probably say use that one.
Okay, all right. I'll go back to our folks and make sure that that's okay. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions or concerns that anyone's having? We did have somebody write in the chat that this deck will this deck be emailed to attendees? Yes, it will be. I will be sending this recording out along with our slide deck as well.
Hey, I have a question. This is Sarah Candino from KPMG. I did want to hear a little bit more from the students, so would be interested in your perspective on events that the companies or firms are hosting on our own. I want to make sure that it's what you're kind of interested in, what would be most beneficial for you in this virtual environment. So, you know, there's different options, different types of things we can do. Would you be interested in more one-on-one conversations? Would you be interested in presentations? Are you interested in doing more chat versus video? Or do you want to be one-on-one and see the person across the screen? I guess I just, if we're doing our own events, I want to make sure it's kind of, we can tailor it, right? And so I want to make sure it's most beneficial to the students that are attending.
Yeah, I can take this question. Go ahead, that was it, Lizzie.
I was just gonna mention that I think that video on would definitely be way more beneficial than just the chat. I think that also goes for the career fair, that I think it would be very hard to make a genuine connection, engage the company's culture and their personality via just IM messages.
Yeah, to go over that, I agree as well. I think one-on-ones would be the most beneficial this year as well, because just because we won't get that in-person interaction, like normally at a career fair, you have that one-on-one time when you walk up to a recruiter and kind of like tell them your story and stuff. So I think one-on-ones definitely builds up like more of a personal connection, and that's something I would prefer.
Yeah, I completely agree with them.
I also think that group info sessions would also be helpful, because a lot of the younger students, especially when I was younger, it was very intimidating to go and talk to a recruiter one-on-one. And I think that would be even more prevalent virtually. So I think that the info sessions would also help.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you guys for your feedback.
Any other questions at this time? I know it's a great opportunity to ask our peer coaches some more fun questions for them as well, if anybody has any.
This is Alex from PepsiCo. I actually had a quick question about the virtual career fair platform that we were just talking through. On that platform, is there any way to evaluate students or keep track of who we're actually speaking to?
Yep, so on your booth, the administrator who was given access for your booth creation, you will be able to go into the back end, and any student that comes to your booth, whether they chat with you or not, you'll be given a notification. And from there, you will be able to click on their name and pull up their profile, which is going to have their name and their major as well as their resume that they've uploaded into the system. So you can pull that, and then you can download that as well after the fair, so you can keep all those documents for yourself.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Bronte, I actually have a question. So you mentioned that the recruiters can talk to as many students as they can handle. So does that mean there's no waiting room for when students are sending messages, or is it going to come rapid fire and they just have to deal with it as they come?
Correct, yeah, there's no waiting room for the student, so could potentially be rapid fire. Recruiters can have up to 10 individuals on at a time, so hopefully that will kind of control the rapid fireness of what it can be. But yep, no waiting rooms.
All right, thank you.
And then I also had a question. Is there an ability to like upload pictures and stuff so you can see who you're chatting with?
Yeah, so the recruiters that have their chat profiles can upload a picture, they can put their name in there, and they could also put their function. So we've had some companies ask as they're coming in, if you're at a career fair, you can kind of direct students to certain recruiters that are looking at certain divisions from the company. So we're recommending for the companies that are interested in something like that, you can put next to your name the function that you are looking to recruit. So that way students can know more specifically who they're chatting with and make sure that they're chatting with somebody from the right department.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Bronte, I think you mentioned this, but did you see that the representatives that we send to these events can virtually chat with multiple students at a time?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
And then just to follow up on that, if we wanted to take notes on the candidate, would we need to do that separately, or is there a spot to do that in the virtual platform?
There's not a spot in the virtual platform to take notes, so you would want to do that separately. And then I did notice in the chat that there was a question about the Careers and Business Fair and the MBA Fair and how they overlap. So yes, they will. You'll have one booth. However, we will have 2 pavilions up in the fair. So that's kind of more of the back end stuff that you as a recruiter don't necessarily have to worry about, but students can go in and they can click the Careers and Business Fair to see the companies attending the undergrad fair, and then they can click the MBA MS Fair to see the companies attending the MBA fair. So when students click on either one of those, any company that registered to be a part of that fair, their booth will show up during that time. And then I also see the question of, can we organize an information in advance of the career fair? Are you, Florian, are you talking to something specifically in the career fair system, or outside of that, just an information session for your company specifically?
I see Penny chatted him back.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Oh, he said either. Yes, you can schedule time. Penny will schedule time to connect, but you can also do virtual events outside of the career fairs at any time. And it looks like Penny said she'll connect with you on that. Will we have any opportunities to do virtual tabling events, or would those fall under information sessions? So with that, we're doing a lot of different things with that. We are scheduling virtual information sessions, of course. We can also set up more of a schedule for you to schedule times with students for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and students could then sign up for those slots essentially, and we could send you the students' information up to 5 days in advance, and then you could let them know what system you want to use to have that virtual conversation over. So that's definitely an option, and would be happy to talk further about that and help you set up something for students that's more of a one-on-one connection like that through Handshake. And then another question for Bronte, what day will the booths go live for the career fair?
Yep, so in this system, the booths will go live for employers 1 hour before the fair start time. So you'll be able to get in and have your booth live then. There is no way to, for students to see the companies attending in the EVF system before the fair. So we are heavily pushing students to utilize Handshake to look at all of the companies who are attending the fair and do prior company research. And then for the employer side, you will not be able to see the students who are attending before the fair. So everything goes live pretty much on the day and right around the time of the fair. As an employer, if you are wanting to see what your booth looks like before the fair, there is a link that you can go to, and I will type that in the chat so that way everybody has access to it, so you can kind of check out your booth and see what the student perspective would be before the fair.
I also wanted to add that I've had several companies who've scheduled like kind of drop-in hours during the lunchtime. So they're going to be set up on Zoom, and students will have a Zoom link and be able to drop in and just ask informal questions versus like the formal corporate presentation that you would find in the evening. So that's something that a lot of companies are looking at doing instead of having tabling events.
And Penny, to clarify, you mean that companies are setting these up during the lunchtime, Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday?
Correct. Correct. And not as much on Friday because a lot of students aren't engaged then, but Monday through Thursday. And those can overlap with other companies because the students are just dropping by. You know, they're going in and out. They're not staying the whole time. So it's kind of like open office hours. But several companies have scheduled those in place of tabling events.
Any other thoughts or questions before we wrap up?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, you can.
This is Cynthia with Niagara Bottling. I'm a campus recruiter. And I just wanted to know from the student perspective, if a company is hosting a virtual event, did you guys have a preference if the event is hosted, you know, directly by the recruiters, or did you have a preference that it's hosted by the folks in the field? So for example, if you're studying supply chain, would you prefer it to be, you know, a manager in supply chain? Did you guys have a preference?
I would prefer having both because I think that's really important to get the professional that's in our industry's viewpoint, and so we can ask them questions about their day-to-day.
Absolutely, I agree. I think having both is probably the most beneficial, like being able to ask industry experts like a specific supply chain or like marketing question is definitely beneficial. And also like being able to understand the recruiting process from a campus recruiter's perspective is also valuable.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to quick say before we hop off the call, again, we appreciate you attending this call and being flexible with our students. I will also, like I said, I'll send our slide deck out and this Zoom meeting from today. So if others want to watch it, absolutely. And always reach out to us with questions if you have any or any concerns at all. But we also look forward to seeing everyone on our next call, which is going to be September 16th from noon to 1. If for some reason you lost the invite or don't have it, feel free to reach out to me and I can send that again to you. And Marla, I know you have some also wrap up things.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody again. We truly appreciate your commitment to MSU, the Broad College, our students. We're really grateful, especially given the uncertainty of these times. And I know that your lives are not easy, and the fact that you're willing to continue to commit and recruit and you know, ask good questions of our students and schedule virtual events. We're just incredibly appreciative. And on behalf of our students, I just want to say thank you so much. And we're here to be a resource for you.
And with that, I will let everybody sign off and have a couple minutes back to yourself. So thank you again so much for attending. Go green, go white. Marla put that in there. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.